Welcome to Z Science, where sleep meets science and calm storytelling brings the universe of the mind to life. I'm George, your guide through peaceful explorations of how the brain works when we dream. For years, I've told quiet stories that help people unwind, learn, and drift off to sleep. Tonight, we'll explore what science knows so far about dreams and the sleeping brain, why we dream, how memory and emotion blend at night, and what's really happening inside your mind while you rest. So settle in, take a slow breath, and let's drift into the science of sleep together. Before we begin, if you enjoy these gentle science journeys and would like to help this sleepy little channel grow, I'd be so grateful if you tapped the like button, subscribed, or even left a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the night. All right, take a deep breath, settle in. Let's begin our quiet voyage into the theater of the dreaming mind. What exactly is a dream? It sounds like such a simple question, doesn't it? But defining a dream is a bit like trying to hug a cloud. You can get around it, but it slips through your arms before you can hold on to anything solid. At its core, a dream is a series of thoughts, images, emotions, and sensations that your mind creates while you sleep. It's the original streaming service, beamed straight from your brain's production studio, sometimes dramatic, sometimes absurd, occasionally frightening, and more often than not, completely nonsensically. And yet, despite their surreal nature, dreams feel real while they're happening. You might fly, fall, argue with a walrus in a tuxedo, or show up late to an exam 10 years after graduating. And during the dream, you're convinced it all makes perfect sense. But why does your brain do this? To find out, let's go back, way back to ancient times, when people didn't have neuroscience or sleep labs, but they did have dreams. In ancient Mesopotamia, dreams were seen as messages from the gods. Egyptians even had professional dream interpreters, like sleep-time oracles. If you dreamt of a cat, a flood, or a flying crocodile, someone probably had a scroll for that dot. Fast forward to ancient Greece, where philosophers like Aristotle began suggesting that dreams might come from within the dreamer, from the body and the mind rather than divine sources. Still, the idea that dreams held special meaning persisted for centuries. Then came the 19th and early 20th centuries, and with them, Sigmund Freud, the man who made dreams fashionable again. Freud believed dreams were the royal road to the unconscious, revealing hidden desires, fears, and forbidden wishes. Dramatic, yes, but not entirely accurate. Still, it inspired a great deal of armchair analysis and at least a few awkward conversations. Carl Jung, Freud's former protege, took a slightly different approach. He believed dreams connected us to a shared human experience, the collective unconscious. Symbols in dreams, according to Jung, carried deep archetypal meaning that transcended individual life stories. But then, science tapped the shoulder of philosophy and said, "Mind if I take a look?" Modern neuroscience offers a more grounded view. Instead of assuming your dreams are riddled with secret messages about your parents, Freud researchers study the brain's activity during sleep. What they've found is that dreams are closely tied to particular stages of sleep, most notably REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and during this stage, your brain is surprisingly active, sometimes almost as active as when you're awake. Your eyes dart beneath your lids, your heart rate rises slightly, and your body becomes temporarily paralyzed, which is probably for the best, or you'd be acting out your dreams on your pillow. Dreams can also occur in other sleep stages, what we call non-REM sleep, but those tend to be more abstract, less vivid, and generally more subdued. The wild cinematic dreams, the ones with talking giraffes and dramatic plot twists, are usually courtesy of REM. Scientists still don't completely agree on why we dream. Is it purely biological? Is the brain defragmenting itself like an old hard drive? Or is it whispering symbolic messages in a language we haven't quite learned to translate? Not everyone dreams the same way. Some people even claim not to dream at all, though it's usually just that they don't remember. Dream memories are notoriously slippery. You might wake up recalling a space opera starring your pet hamster, only for it to fade like mist by the time you brush your teeth. The brain doesn't store dream memories the same way it stores waking ones. The regions responsible for encoding memories, like the hippocampus, less active during REM, which is why dream recollections vanish so quickly. Still, some dreams linger, the vivid ones, the frightening ones, the emotionally charged ones. These burn brighter in the mind's archive. Researchers have also found that dream content often mirrors waking life, an idea called the continuity hypothesis. Your daily experiences, emotions, and even the media you consume slip quietly into your dreams. So, if you binge-watched a detective series, argued with your boss, and ate spicy noodles before bed, don't be surprised if your dream involves a chili-fueled crime scene. Yet dreams aren't merely leftovers from daily life. They can be wildly creative. Artists, musicians, and inventors have long credited dreams for inspiration. Paul McCartney famously heard the melody for Yesterday in a dream. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was dream-born. The chemist Dmitri Mendeleev said the periodic table came to him in a vision during sleep. Dreams may be strange, but they're also playgrounds for imagination. Without the rules of logic or physics, your brain can experiment, rehearse, fantasize, and reflect all while you rest. It's like going to the movies where the writer, director, set designer, and entire cast are all you and none of them know what they're doing. That, though, is part of the magic. Dreams are messy, mysterious, and profoundly human. They're the quiet proof that even when we rest, the mind is anything but still. So the next time you drift off, remember, you're about to star in your very own midnight adventure, improvised, unfiltered, and possibly featuring a talking penguin. Let's talk about sleep, the backstage crew that makes your dreams possible. We often think of sleep as one long, uninterrupted snooze, like pressing pause on consciousness for 8 hours. But under the hood, sleep is surprisingly complexer, well-orchestrated cycle, more like a symphony than a simple off switch. It has stages, patterns, rhythms, and structure. Scientists even call it sleep architecture, which makes it sound both impressive and slightly expensive. So, let's take a quiet stroll through the blueprint of sleep. No hard hats needed. Sleep is divided into two major categories: REM sleep and non-REM sleep. Non-REM sleep itself has 3 stages helpfully labeled N1, N2, and N3, which sound like droids from Star Wars, but are actually just different depths of unconsciousness. These stages cycle roughly every 90 minutes, looping again and again through the night. Like a playlist your brain keeps, replaying only with fewer commercials and perhaps a bit more drool. Stage N1, the gentle descent. This is the lightest stage of sleep, the moment when you're just beginning to drift off. You're still aware of the world around you, but your brain has started to shift gears. You might feel your limbs twitch or jerk awake from the sensation of falling. Don't worry, that's not your soul leaving your body. It's simply your nervous system glitching a bit on the way down. Brain waves slow from the active beta and alpha waves of wakefulness into slower theta waves. It's the twilight zone between waking and dreaming. If someone wakes you during N1, you might insist you weren't asleep at all, which is technically true, and also slightly delusional. Stage N to light sleep. Now you're sinking deeper. Your body temperature drops, your heartbeat slows, and your eye movements stop. You're not quite dreaming yet, but you're definitely not taking calls either. In this stage, the brain starts showing little bursts of electrical activity called sleep spindles and K-complexes. They sound like indie rock bands, but they're actually protective mechanisms that help keep you asleep by blocking out external noise. That distant car horn, your brain just shushed it with a well-timed spindle. You'll spend about half your night in this stage. It's the workhorse of sleep. Not flashy, but essential for keeping rest steady and secure. Stage N3, deep sleep. Also called slow wave or delta sleep. This is the big one, the restorative phase, the deep clean cycle on your brain's dishwasher. Here your brain produces slow delta waves, huge, rolling pulses of activity that wash through your cortex like waves on a quiet beach. Your body repairs tissues, builds bone and muscle, strengthens the immune system, and for children, releases growth hormone. Adults don't get taller, unfortunately, but we still benefit from this cellular spring cleaning. It's very difficult to wake someone from deep sleep, and if you do, they'll likely be groggy, disoriented, and mildly annoyed, like being yanked out of a warm bath by a foghorn. Dreaming can happen in this stage too, but it's not the vivid kind, more like flashes of thought or feeling, static-laced and hazy. REM sleep, the dream factory. Welcome to REM, or rapid eye movement sleep, the mysterious realm where the brain lights up. Your muscles go limp, and your eyes dart behind your lids as if watching an invisible tennis match. REM is where most of your vivid and bizarre dreams occur. The brain's sandbox for strange stories, illogical adventures, and the occasional celebrity cameo. But REM isn't only for entertainment. It plays a vital role in memory consolidation, emotional processing, and creativity. Some researchers believe REM helps you sort through the emotional clutter of the day, sweeping up the confetti after a wild parade. During REM, the brain can be as active as when you're awake, yet the body is completely still. This temporary paralysis, called rematonia, prevents you from acting out your dreams. It's a safety feature. Your brain says, "Let's imagine being chased by a giant jelly bean," and your body replies, "Cool, I'll just lie here, motionless." Each REM phase lengthens as the night goes on. The first cycle might last only 10 minutes, but by morning it can stretch close to an hour. That's why dreams feel longer, weirder, and more detailed toward dawn. The full sleep cycle. Putting it all together, your brain drifts from light sleep N1 into N2, sinks to N3 for heavy repair work, then springs into REM for a bit of late-night theater before starting over again. Each loop lasts about 90 minutes, repeating 4 to 6 times per night. Early on, you get more deep sleep. Later, more REM. It's as if your brain schedules maintenance first and entertainment later. Why sleep architecture matters. When that rhythm is disrupted by stress, caffeine, blue light, or late-night existential crisis, it throws the whole system off. You might not reach deep sleep, or your REM might be cut short. The result? You wake feeling groggy, unrefreshed, and mildly betrayed by your own biology. Sleep isn't one thing. It's a finely tuned rhythm, each stage doing its part. Understanding that rhythm helps you rest better. You don't need to become a sleep technician, but keeping a steady bedtime, reducing light before sleep, and avoiding caffeine late in the day all help your brain do its quiet work efficiently, gracefully, and without waking you just to brag about it. So tonight, as you drift off, remember that your brain is about to launch into a beautifully choreographed routine complete with waves, spindles, and dream sequences. You might not recall them, but your body and mind will be grateful. Why do we dream? It's a question that's haunted philosophers, scientists, and sleepy poets for centuries. Despite all our technology and pondering, the truth is we still don't know for sure. Dreams remain one of the last mysterious frontiers of human experience, a nightly detour into stories. The brain insists on telling without scripts or logic. Some dreams feel deeply meaningful. Others are just odd. One moment you're back in school, the next you're chased through a supermarket by a giant duck wearing roller skates. Why? What purpose could that possibly serve? And yet your brain goes to all the trouble of creating its sounds, visuals, emotions, the whole production. All while you're unconscious. Many scientists think dreams are linked to memory. During the day, your brain gathers a flood of information, faces, facts, conversations, disappointments, lunch menus, stray jingles, and at night, it must sort through the clutter. According to the memory consolidation theory, dreams are part of this cleanup. A mental filing system deciding what to keep, what to toss, and what to send to that mysterious place where lost socks and forgotten passwords go. Students who study intensely or learn new skills tend to have more REM sleep afterward than sometimes even dream about what they've been studying. So yes, technically, cramming in your sleep is real. Though your dream self might confuse calculus with cartoon animals. Another idea is that dreams help process emotions. During REM sleep, emotional centers like the amygdala light up while stress chemicals simmer down. This combination lets you revisit charged memories without full panicker, kind of built-in therapy session. That dream where you calmly argue with your ex atop a slow-moving elephant. That might be your brain's gentle way of saying, I'm working through it. There's also the threat simulation theory, suggesting dreams evolved as practice for real-life dangers, running from predators, getting lost, facing attacks, or being late for an exam in a class you never took. Your mind rehearses responses to imagined crises. People raised in more dangerous environments often report more frequent, vivid dreams, as if their brains stay on alert even in sleep. So, when your dream drops you into a collapsing building while reciting the alphabet backwards, it might just be your instincts doing a late-night fire drill. Not all theories are emotional or evolutionary. One mechanical explanation, the activation synthesis hypothesis, proposes that dreams result from random electrical impulses in the brainstem during REM. These signals trigger images, memories, and feelings, and the cerebral cortex, the brain's storyteller, tries to make sense of them. It doesn't always succeed, hence the talking ducks and pirate ship teachers. In this view, dreams aren't purposeful narratives, but spontaneous collages the brain assembles from scattered sparks. Another theory links dreaming to cognitive development, especially in children. Kids dream far more than adults, and their dreams are wildly imaginative, talking animals, magical powers, flying worlds. Some scientists believe this creative dream play helps young brains build problem-solving and emotional skills. When a child dreams of battling a spaghetti dragon to rescue a cloud, they're not just being silly, they're wiring new pathways in the mind. Even for adults, dreams can nurture creativity and problem solving. Have you ever gone to bed stuck on a problem and woken up with a solution? That's not magic, it's your brain working quietly, free from daytime distractions. Famous examples abound. Paul McCartney dreaming up the melody to Yesterday, and chemist Auguste Kekule dreaming of a snake biting its own tail, the clue that led him to the ring structure of the benzene molecule. Dreams let the mind wander where waking logic might never go, and yet, despite all these theories, memory, sorting, emotion processing, threat rehearsal, random synthesis, problem solving, no single explanation has won the day. Most likely, dreaming serves multiple purposes at once, like a late-night variety show where your brain juggles cleaning, practicing, rehearsing, and occasionally bursting into song. That's the strange beauty of it. Dreams are not tidy, not rational, but utterly human. Each night, your brain spins stories for an audience of one. Stories you may barely remember, yet that shape your emotions, memories, and imagination in ways unseen. So, the next time you slip beneath the covers, remember, your brain isn't being lazy. It's busy working, sorting, and imagining, and, if it chooses to do that while turning your uncle into a talking cactus, well, that's just part of the process. Sleep well. You've got a mind full of dreams ahead. Everyone loves a good dream. Floating through clouds, visiting impossible worlds, or stumbling upon a bakery that only sells your favorite childhood dessert. But not all dreams are made of marshmallows and whimsy. Sometimes your sleeping mind turns the lights down, turns the volume up, and delivers something far less comforting, a nightmare. Nightmares are the emotional thunderstorms of our dream life. They jolt us awake, leave our hearts racing, and often linger like fog long after morning comes. But what actually causes a nightmare? And why does your brain, of all things, go out of its way to frighten you just when you're trying to rest? A nightmare is a vivid, disturbing dream that typically occurs during REM sleep, the same stage responsible for most of your cinematic story-like dreams. The difference is emotional tone. While your usual REM dream might be strange or confusing, a nightmare turns up the intensity, triggering fear, anxiety, sadness, or even shame. You might dream of falling, being chased, losing someone you love, or finding yourself unprepared, like standing on stage with no clothes and no explanation. Most people experience nightmares occasionally, and they're perfectly normal. But when they become frequent or recurring, they can interfere with sleep and emotional well-being. This is known as nightmare disorder, and it's more common than you might think, especially in people who face high stress, anxiety, or trauma. There's a strong connection between nightmares and real-life emotions. Some researchers believe nightmares help the brain process difficult feelings, though they do it with high-voltage intensity. Think of it like your mind running simulations of worst-case scenarios, preparing you emotionally for danger or distress. In that sense, nightmares may actually be protective, a psychological fire drill, unpleasant but useful. For people recovering from trauma, nightmares can replay the event in some form, literally or symbolically. This happens often in PTSD, where the dream loops again and again. Treatments like imagery, rehearsal therapy can help by mentally rewriting the nightmare while awake, changing the story to something less frightening, and practicing it repeatedly. It's like telling your brain, we've learned the lesson. You can let it go now. But not every frightening sleep experience is a nightmare. There's another kind: night terrors or sleep terrors. These usually happen during deep non-REM sleep, early in the night. Unlike nightmares, which are vivid dreams, night terrors are sudden eruptions of panic from the brainstem. A person might sit up, scream, thrash, or appear wide-eyed with fear but not truly awake. Their eyes are open, but no one's home. By morning, they often remember nothing. Night terrors are common in children and usually fade with age. For parents, they can be distressing to witness, but they're harmless and not tied to long-term problems. Adults can experience them too, though more rarely, sometimes triggered by stress, medications, or sleep disorders. They're not technically dreams at all, just the brain caught halfway between deep sleep and wakefulness, like a switch stuck in between. Then there's the eerie cousin of both nightmares and night terrors: sleep paralysis. This happens when your mind wakes up before your body does. You're conscious but can't move. Sometimes you feel a heavy weight on your chest or sense a presence in the room. It's often accompanied by vivid hallucinations, shadows, whispers, or pressure on the body. Historically, people blamed demons or spirits for these experiences. Today, we know it's a harmless glitch, the REM paralysis that keeps you from acting out dreams. Just lingers a few seconds too long after waking. Still, in the moment, it feels terrifying, a waking nightmare, literally. So why does the brain have such a flair for fear? One theory is that negative emotions are simply more memorable, and evolution wants us to remember danger. You're far more likely to recall a dream about escaping a fire than one about eating a sandwich. Fear leaves a stronger trace. From a survival standpoint, it's good training. Of course, the line between dream and nightmare isn't always clear. Some dreams are thrilling but not scary. Others are deeply unsettling without being loud or dramatic. The emotional tone is personal. What terrifies one person might amuse another. A dream about public speaking could be a nightmare for one and a fun adventure for someone else. Nightmares can act as mirrors, reflecting our deepest fears and unresolved worries. They show us what's been hiding under the surface: stress we haven't faced, emotions we've ignored. And while that can be uncomfortable, it can also be healing. Your brain might be saying, "This is hard, but we need to face it." The good news is, most nightmares are occasional visitors, intense, yes, but fleeting. For those who have them often, tools like stress management, good sleep hygiene, and therapy can help calm the shadows. So if you've woken recently from a chase, a fall, or a moment of helplessness, remember, your brain might just be working something out. And when you wake up heart racing, a little shaken but safe in your bed, that's your brain's way of saying, it was only a dream. With luck, the next one will be gentler, maybe a nap on a floating leaf, or a chat with a wise old turtle. Either way, you'll be okay. We often think of sleep as a time to rest, to recharge, to gently escape the world for a while. But your dreams don't always get that memo. They don't politely ask if now's a good time to unpack old emotions. They simply barge in, wearing strange disguises, rearranging your memories, and occasionally tossing in a subplot involving cats and elevators. Dreams and mental health are deeply intertwined, two dancers moving quietly through the night, each influencing the other in subtle ways. Sometimes dreams reflect your emotional state. Other times, they amplify it. And in some cases, They might even be trying to help you heal. When you're stressed, anxious, or emotionally overwhelmed, your dreams tend to get louder, not literally, unless you dream in surround sound, but louder in content. They become more vivid, more emotional, sometimes more chaotic. You might find yourself being chased, lost, frozen, or caught in situations that mirror your waking stress. It's as if your subconscious paints an abstract version of your feelings for you to see. Researchers have long noticed this connection. People with depression often report dreams that feel heavy or repetitive, full of emotional weight. Those with anxiety tend to dream of threats, pressure, or embarrassment, like trying to dial a phone that never works or giving a speech while unprepared. The emotions of waking life seep quietly into the stories of the night. But it's not only what you dream, it's also how you dream. The structure and flow of dreams can shift with mental health. When people go through intense stress or trauma, their dreams often become fragmented and disjointed. It's as if the brain is trying to process too much at once, without enough glue to hold the pieces together. The result, a kind of dream, chaos, emotional, confusing, and raw. This is especially true for post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Nightmares are one of its hallmark symptoms. They aren't just bad dreams. They are often vivid replays of the trauma itself. Normally, REM sleep helps us process emotions, reducing their sting by the time we wake. But in PTSD, this system falters. Instead of soothing the wound, the dream repeats, it like a record stuck on the same track. Therapies like imagery rehearsal can help. By consciously rewriting a recurring nightmare during the day, changing the ending, softening the threatened, then mentally rehearsing it, people can gradually reshape their dreams. It's like giving the mind a new script to perform, one that resolves instead of reopens. Dreams are also shaped by the tools we use to care for our minds. Many antidepressants, for example, alter REM sleep. Some suppress it, leading to fewer remembered dreams. Others cause REM rebound when doses change, suddenly producing vivid, emotional dreams. It's not good or bad, just proof that mood, sleep, and dreaming are tightly linked. The brain is a system. Change one part, and ripples move through all the rest. Scientists are even studying dreams as possible clues to emotional well-being. We're far from using dreams as diagnostic tools, but researchers are exploring patterns, how dream themes and emotional tones might predict changes in mental health. The future may hold AI models that notice early signs of anxiety or depression from dream descriptions and sleep data. Though explaining to a robot that you were chased by flying broccoli may always feel a little absurd, dreams can reveal emotional truths we haven't spoken aloud. They reflect our hopes, fears, and the tangled space in between. And sometimes, when waking life feels too heavy, dreams give shape to feelings we don't yet have words for. They can also aid problem solving and emotional growth. In therapy, people sometimes dream about big life decisions or unresolved conflicts. The dream may not offer a clear answer, but it nudges the person toward insight. It's the brain's quiet way of saying, "You're working through this." Of course, not every dream is profound. Some are simply strange, inspired by late-night snacks or random thoughts. And that's perfectly fine. Not every dream carries meaning. Sometimes a floating platypus in a bow tie is just a floating platypus in a bow tie. But when dreams echo your deeper emotions, when they replace stress, fear, or sorrow, it's worth noticing. Not overanalyzing, not worrying, just noticing. because your dreaming mind isn't separate from you. It is you, a nighttime version of yourself, speaking in a language of symbols and feelings. So if your dreams have been darker lately, stranger, or more intense, be gentle with yourself. Your mind is still processing, still working, even in the dark. And if your dreams are lighter, softer, more hopeful, hold on to that too. It might be your subconscious showing you the way forward. Dreams aren't just random noise. They're part of an ongoing conversation between your brain, your body, and your heart. And like all good conversations, the most important parts often happen late at night, when everything else is quiet. You've probably seen it before, a dog sleeping soundly on the floor, paws twitching, tail flicking, maybe even letting out a muffled bark or two, or a cat stretched out on the windowsill, whiskers trembling, legs paddling as if it's chasing something in its sleep. And if you've ever wondered whether animals dream, the answer is almost certainly yes. Of course, they can't tell us about it. No golden retriever has ever sat down to describe its dream about a field of flying tennis balls. But science has given us clues, and the evidence is surprisingly strong. Almost all mammals and many birds experience REM sleep, the same sleep phase where humans do most of their dreaming. REM, or rapid eye movement, is marked by irregular brain activity, temporary muscle paralysis, and darting eye movements under closed lids. In animals, it looks familiar. The twitching paws, the flickering eyes, the quiet squeaks or tail flicks. It's as if a silent movie is playing behind their eyelids. Brain scans add even more convincing proof. In a famous MIT study, researchers trained rats to run through a maze while recording their brain activity. Specific patterns of neurons fired as the rats navigated the maze, like a unique song played by their brains. Later, while the rats slept, those same neural patterns replayed during REM sleep. It was as if the rats were dreaming about the maze, running it again in their minds, perhaps reinforcing the memory or practicing for the next day. The same song, just with the lights off. Birds show similar behavior. Zebra finches, for example, have been studied for their complex singing. When they sleep, their brains replay the neural activity used in song, almost as if they're rehearsing while unconscious. Dream karaoke, if you will. And it's not just mammals and birds. Some reptiles, once thought too simple for dreaming, show sleep patterns resembling both REM and non-REM cycles. Certain lizards display alternating brain activity that looks suspiciously like early forms of dream sleep. It suggests that dreaming may be a far older evolutionary trait than we once believed, perhaps, woven deep into the biology of life itself. The more complex an animal's brain and emotional life, the more likely it is to show signs of REM sleep. Dolphins, for instance, sleep with only one hemisphere of the brain at a time, which complicates things but doesn't rule out dreaming. Elephants enter REM sleep while lying down, and primates, our close relatives, dream in ways strikingly similar to our own. So what are animals actually dreaming about? That's the mystery. We can observe patterns and behavior, but we can't exactly ask a cat if it dreamed of hunting, or a squirrel if it dreamed of finding an endless stash of acorns. Still, we can make educated guesses. Animals probably dream about the things that matter to them, exploring territory, finding food, bonding, playing, or chasing. Unlike humans, their dreams may not be symbolic or filled with abstract meaning. They're likely grounded in memory and instinct. In this way, dreaming serves similar purposes across species: memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and rehearsal of behavior. For a mouse, that might mean reinforcing how to navigate a maze. For a dog, perhaps reliving a joyful run in the park. For a bird, practicing its morning song. There's even evidence that animals can have nightmares. Lab rats exposed to stress show changes in their REM sleep, more fragmented, more intense, and later avoid parts of the maze they previously associated with a shock. It suggests that animals, like us, use dreams to process unpleasant or frightening experiences. It's a touching reminder that dreaming is deeply emotional, not just neurological. And what about our pets? The dogs curled at our feet, the cats softly snoring by the window. Scientists believe dogs have vivid dreams, especially smaller breeds that enter REM sleep more frequently. Large dogs, on the other hand, may dream less often, but for longer stretches. And what's the most likely topic? You, their human companion. Because you're such a big part of their world. You probably appear in their dreams, maybe walking, playing, or just being near. Cats, of course, dream too. In fact, studies on cats in the 1960s helped scientists first understand REM sleep, when researchers temporarily disabled the brain region that causes REM paralysis. Cats acted out their dreams, stalking, pouncing, grooming, all while asleep. It was the first concrete proof that animals don't just rest. They experience rich inner worlds while doing so. Dreaming in animals raises beautiful philosophical questions. If a rat dreams, does it have a sense of self in that dream? Can animals tell reality from imagination? And what would a dream feel like to a creature that can't describe it in words? Maybe dreaming is a universal brain language, a way for all creatures, great and small, to replay, remember, and reflect. Not uniquely human, but something ancient, soft, and shared a nighttime space where instinct meets memory, and the mind hums quietly in the dark. So, next time your dog kicks its legs, or your cat chirps softly in sleep, let them be. Let them chase dream birds or bark at dream mailmen. They're traveling through worlds you'll never see, but that exist nonetheless. Real in the only way dreams ever are. And as you drift off yourself, you might smile, knowing that somewhere nearby, another creature is dreaming too. For most of human history, dreams have been private. A world seen by one person alone. Fleeting, mysterious, and often forgotten by morning. You might wake with only fragments of a story, a face, a place, or a peculiar feeling. But when you try to explain it, the magic slips away. Dreams have always been like whispers in a locked room. But now, scientists are slowly picking the lock. Welcome to the strange and slightly sci-fi frontier of dream recording, where neuroscience, technology, and a little wonder combine in an attempt to do what once seemed impossible. Read the dreaming mind, it begins. As many scientific stories do, with machines and squiggly lines. For decades, researchers have used EEG, electroencephalography, to track brainwaves during sleep. EEG can reveal when you're in light sleep, deep sleep, or REM sleep, but it doesn't show what you're dreaming. To glimpse that, scientists need more detailed pictures, and that's where fMRI, or functional magnetic resonance imaging, comes in. One of the most fascinating experiments took place in Japan at the ATR Computational Neuroscience Laboratories. Researchers asked volunteers to fall asleep inside an fMRI scanner, perhaps the least cozy place imaginable. Somehow, they managed. The team monitored their brain activity during the early stages of sleep when dream imagery begins to flicker. Here's the clever part. Before sleeping, the participants had been shown hundreds of images, people, buildings, objects, animals while awake. Their brain activity was recorded for each, creating a kind of neural fingerprint for every category. Later, during sleep, when similar patterns appeared, scientists compared them to the waking data. It worked. With about 60% accuracy, they could guess what kind of image the person was dreaming about, whether it involved a person, a book, a car, or a tree. They couldn't see the dream's plot or emotions, but they could tell what was being visualized. It was the first real peek behind the curtain of a sleeping mind. 60% might not sound impressive, but considering this involves decoding thoughts from a sleeping brain, it's remarkable, like watching someone's dream from the outside. Low resolution and silent, but real. Other experiments have gone further. At the University of California, researchers built a model that could reconstruct what people were seeing while awake using fMRI data. The resulting images were blurry, impressionistic, like watercolor memories. But they hinted at the possibilities ahead. So, can we actually watch someone's dream on a screen? Not yet, but the groundwork has been laid. Scientists can already identify categories of dream content, track emotional tone by monitoring which brain regions light up, and occasionally detect specific objects or shapes. The technology is still crude, but it's improving rapidly. As artificial intelligence becomes more adept at decoding neural patterns, dream reading might soon grow sharper and faster, of course. This raises enormous ethical questions. Dreams are private by nature. They are the last unfiltered corner of the mind, a space where no one else can follow. If we ever reach the point where dreams can be decoded or recorded, what happens to that privacy? Would we need dream passwords? Legal protection for the subconscious? These questions are no longer pure science fiction. Ethicists and lawmakers are already discussing the need for neurorights, new human rights that protect mental privacy, cognitive liberty, and the sanctity of thought. Because while the idea of sharing dreams like YouTube videos might sound entertaining, there's something sacred about the fact that your dreams belong to you alone, still. Dream recording could have beautiful uses. Imagine people who cannot speak or write, those locked inside their own bodies. If we could one day translate their dreams into words or images, we might glimpse their inner worlds for the first time. Or consider therapy. If psychologists could see recurring symbols or emotional arcs in a patient's dreams, it might open a powerful new window into mental health, a dream journal written by the brain itself. Researchers are also experimenting with something called targeted dream incubation. By playing specific sounds or words during sleep, they can gently nudge the content of a dream. For instance, people exposed to the scent of roses while sleeping often report more pleasant dreams. Hearing the word tree may prompt dreams of forests. Subtle cues, timed carefully, can steer the mind's imagery without waking the sleeper. It's not full control, more like whispering to the dreamer, but it shows that dreams can be guided, at least slightly, like steering a canoe on a quiet river. Dreams, though, remain far too complex to decode fully. They are messy, emotional, and layered. Even the dreamer can barely make sense of them, let alone an observer. Yet we are getting closer to understanding how the brain builds these inner worlds, and maybe, someday, closer to bringing them into the light. So tonight, as you settle into bed, take a moment to appreciate the quiet mystery behind your eyelids. Your brain is about to dive into a world of its own making, unrecorded, unfiltered, and uniquely yours. For now, no machine can follow you there. And perhaps that's a good thing. Even in an age of data and decoding, there's something lovely about knowing that some stories remain secret, whispers in a locked room, painted softly in the dark. We've wandered through the landscapes of the dreaming mind, from twitching lab rats and philosophical musings to REM cycles, memory repair, and dogs barking softly in their sleep. But before we drift toward the end of this quiet journey, there's one last question to ask. Where is all this going? What does the future hold for dream science? The truth is, we're standing at the edge of something remarkable. For the first time in human history, our tools are catching up to our curiosity. Technology, neuroscience, and artificial intelligence are merging in strange and beautiful ways, offering not just glimpses into the dreaming mind, but the potential to shape it, enhance it, and maybe even share it. One of the fastest growing fields is targeted dream incubation, the idea that with gentle cues before or during sleep, we might be able to influence the content of dreams, not control them completely, but guide them, like nudging a canoe down a calm river. Experiments have already shown that playing certain sounds or scents during sleep can shift dream imagery. The smell of roses, for instance, tends to produce pleasant dreams. A softly spoken word like tree might lead to visions of a forest. Now, imagine combining that with wearable technology, headbands that monitor brainwaves, earbuds that deliver perfectly timed cues. One day, you might use it to help solve problems, rehearse a speech, or gently process emotions through guided dreams. There are already prototype devices and apps claiming to do this. The science is young, but it's no longer fantasy. And then there's the age-old dream of dream sharing, to people entering or recording the same dream, or watching their dreams like movies. We're nowhere near that yet, but we've cracked the door. As mentioned before, researchers have already decoded fragments of dream imagery using brain scans and machine learning. It's still fuzzy, like peering through frosted glass, but the progress is real. In the future, we may be able to turn those fragments into visual art, blurred animations, or dream sketches, a kind of visual diary of the subconscious. You could wake up, open an app, and watch a ghostly version of last night's dream. Not perfect, but a shadow of it, capturing the tone, the colors, the mystery. But as the science advances, ethical questions whisper in the background. If we can guide dreams, can we manipulate them? If we can read them, could someone misuse that knowledge? What happens when the boundary between sleep and technology starts to fade? That's why the concept of neurorights, mental privacy, autonomy, and freedom of thought is becoming crucial. Dreams are the last uncolonized space of the mind, untouched by algorithms or ads. If we ever step into them with technology, we must do so gently, respectfully, like walking through a sacred place. There's also hope in this research, deep human hope. Imagine a future where people with PTSD receive dream-based therapy, using sound cues or gentle brain stimulation to reprocess trauma safely. Imagine children learning to turn their fears into adventures through guided storytelling before bed. Imagine older adults revisiting cherished memories through dream cues triggered by familiar songs or scents. Lucid dreaming may also see a renaissance, not as an escape, but as a tool for emotional healing, creativity, and learning. Some studies suggest that practicing skills in lucid dreams can strengthen real-world performance. The brain, after all, doesn't fully distinguish between imagined and physical rehearsal. If you practice compassion, confidence, or courage in your dreams, perhaps your waking self grows a little stronger too. Artificial intelligence is even being trained to interpret or mimic dream logic, building virtual environments that feel like dreams. Some VR developers are experimenting with dreamlike spaces that respond to emotion, glowing, shifting, breathing along with the user. These aren't just games. They're experiences designed to evoke the wonder and fluidity of dreaming while awake. It's wild, it's a little surreal, and it's only the beginning. Yet, for all the dazzling potential of technology, it's worth remembering something simple. You don't need gadgets to dream. Your brain already contains everything required for imagination, memory, creativity, and emotional repair. All it asks for is rest. Dreams remind us that the mind isn't a machine. It's a storyteller, a traveler, a soft projector in the dark, replaying old scenes and inventing new ones. Sometimes awkward, sometimes profound, but always personal. The future of dream science may bring new therapies, tools, and ways to connect, but it will never replace the quiet magic of waking up with a strange image in your mind, blinking in the early light and whispering, "Where did that come from?" Because maybe that's the real heart of dreaming. No matter how far science takes us, dreams will always keep a little mystery, a little poetry, a space where the brain stretches, curls into itself, and drifts somewhere only it knows. So sleep deeply tonight, dream freely, and know that while science watches from the edge, your mind is still writing its own stories, night after night, behind closed eyes, in the oldest language it knows. And here we are, gently gliding back from that strange, beautiful world. We've tiptoed through REM cycles, wandered the halls of memory, listened to the whispers of the amygdala, and even peeked into the future of dream science. We've seen that dreams aren't just nighttime noise, they're stories your brain tells itself. Sometimes clumsy, sometimes profound, always intimate. What we've learned so far is astonishing, but what we don't know may be even more wondrous. For all our scans and studies, dreams still slip through the cracks of explanation. They remain part science, part soul, the mind's own poetry. So as you drift off tonight, whether your brain takes you on an epic adventure, a quiet memory, or something so bizarre it defies all logic, just let it. You don't need to understand every detail, you just need to let go. Your brain knows exactly what it's doing. And if this journey has made you a little too fascinated to fall asleep, well, my apologies. But perhaps that's a fair trade for a little wonder before bed. If you enjoyed this slow voyage through the sleeping brain, a gentle thumbs up, a subscription to The Sleepy Scientist, or a small comment about where you're listening from in the world would mean the universe. Until next time, sleep well, dream freely, and remember, your mind is still writing stories, even in the dark. Good night.